The Cowboys and Mike McCarthy have parted ways. Why did it take so long? You didn't let him interview with the Chicago Bears, and I just kept trying to understand what exactly is going on here. Then there was a report that they started negotiations. Then there was another report that they hadn't started negotiations. And then we kept wondering, are you missing out on that window to be able to interview? Let's say you want to interview Ben Johnson of the Lions. Well, you missed that opportunity because now, this week, he has to prepare for their next opponent, the Commanders. Or Aaron Glenn. Whoever, any of these coaching candidates. And I don't know if they were interested in Mike Vrabel. It feels like Mike Vrabel was going to the Patriots, and that was a done deal. But are you interested in Ben Johnson? I'm going to read you something that Tim Cowlishaw, Dallas Morning News. He'll join us coming up a little bit later on. And he talked about Dak Prescott. Like, really, the person you're hiring has to be able to fix Dak Prescott, who I think is around 32 now, had injuries. And Tim Cowlishaw says Dak cannot run anymore. He had 24 rushing yards through 7 games. When he tried to turn back the clock against Atlanta, rushing for 30 yards on 3 carries, the next thing you know, he was having hamstring surgery. Done for the year. Cowlishaw then goes on to say, that's 26 games Dak Prescott has missed in the last 5 seasons. So that's just short of 1/3 of the Cowboys' schedule. Immobile and injury-prone, ? Jerry Jones can't even afford to ponder those issues right now. Dak Prescott's $231 million guaranteed deal, the owner can think only in terms of how to fix his quarterback. Who is best to equip to do that? Figure that out, and the Cowboys at least have a shot at getting back in the hunt. Fail on that front in his 9th coaching hire, and Jerry Jones is just spinning the wheels on his once storied and now laughingstock franchise one more time. You got to bring in an offensive-minded person, correct? Or you got to bring in a great offensive coordinator, somebody who's going to fix Dak Prescott. Well, how do you fix a guy who can no longer run, injury-prone, missing almost 1/3 of his games, and the expectation level is Cowboy-like, and that is, let's get back to the playoffs. Let's get back to a title game. Let's get back to a Super Bowl here. I know Dion Sanders and Jerry loves shiny objects. Dion is a shiny object, but is he the right person for this job? I think Dion is great at being a CEO. And by that, I mean, I don't know if he's a great coach as much as he can run something. He can oversee something. I think he can hold people accountable. But I don't know if this is a situation where you go, Dion, I don't think Dion makes Dak Prescott better. And I don't know if the story is real. Who does it benefit for this to get out? Jerry? Well, Jerry just wants, publicity. Hey, we're trying everybody. I'm reaching out to Dion. People said, Dion, you should reach out to Dion. I'm reaching out to him. It helps Dion. What if Dion says, hey, I said I'm committed to Colorado. I'm going to be staying here. Like, if I'm a recruit, I want to know, are you really committed to this? And then there was a report, maybe the Raiders and Tom Brady. There was another report that it's not going to happen. Dion is not a candidate for the Raiders. So is Dion a candidate for the Cowboys? As of this morning, I would say he is, but I don't know the full validity of that. Is it true? Is it accurate? Is it real? And I think that's what we have to kind of sort out. And Tim Cowlishaw will join us coming up at the top of the next hour. And I don't know, Dion and Jerry are good friends. Is it a good story, or is it a good situation, a real situation? And what happened with Mike McCarthy? I kept reading that they were going to extend him for one more year. One more year. That was it. And if you're Mike McCarthy, that's a slap in the face. I mean, you're a borderline Hall of Fame coach. You won a Super Bowl. You got a pretty impressive resume. And Jerry's going to treat you like that. Does he really want you? It's like you're going to get divorced. You don't want somebody to date the person that you're divorcing, but then you don't want to keep that person. That's the feeling I get. Mike McCarthy, we questioned the hiring from the beginning. I thought he did a pretty good job, but Jerry doesn't want... See, Dion, I think, would return fire on Jerry. I think that he would question things. At least I would hope that he would. If you want to go in there and succeed, you have to be able to stand up to Jerry and say no. And nobody has done that. He's hired people who won't do that, can't do that, not willing to do that. Dion's different. But you got to fix Dak Prescott because you gave him all that money and you're stuck with him. $231 million for a guy who's 32 and injury prone. It's not a great situation. And you got to pay Micah Parsons. You paid CeeDee Lamb. So you have a couple of nice, shiny objects. But what do you really have? It's like a necklace where you have, 3 or 4 beautiful pearls and everything else is artificial. And that's sort of where the Cowboys are. The Commanders, they're in the playoffs. The Eagles, in the playoffs. Then you have the Cowboys and you have the Giants. Will the Giants figure it out? Will they figure it out before the Cowboys do? Yeah, Paulie.
I want to go back to Mike McCarthy, and I'm going to present you a theory and let me know what you think of it. Is there any chance, because we don't believe in mutual breakups, someone walks in the room with the agenda to leave or to stay? Is it possible that Mike McCarthy spent this past week looking at the situation, asked for way too much, or also saw that it's going to be a short-term-ish contract and said, I'm going to keep asking for things until Jerry says no. Then I could exit here without saying I quit or left. And there are other options for me, that Chicago or other, that will give me a 5-year deal with a full contract and a real GM. Is there any chance Mike McCarthy was the person who made this happen?
Well, I think you can ask for it out of professional pride. I would say to Jerry, I want 3 years here. I can't go year to year. Because if you're a player, you just, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, you lose respect for the situation. Like that coach, he doesn't think enough of him to give him security. It's like what they did with the Bears with Matt Eberflus. It's like, you're a lame duck. You're not going to be back here. And Mike McCarthy, he's earned more than just, hey, we're going to keep you around for another year. And I don't blame Mike. Maybe he will benefit. Maybe he will get a long-term deal. I just don't know. There's a report this morning that, maybe the Bears are going to go after Pete Carroll. Okay. So then the Raiders aren't going to bring in Mike McCarthy. Is Ben Johnson going to go there? Do you want the Saints job? Is that available for him? So you start to look at these. There's a reason why these teams have openings. The Saints situation doesn't seem like it's a really winnable situation. So I don't know if he's coaching next year. Even with that experience, that resume, I'm not bringing him in. Unless it's that guy is the right guy for our team. Well, I think he's the right guy for an experienced team, but a team that he can also be the head coach of and not be a puppet. In Dallas, he was a puppet. And this is, Jerry's MO. But I don't think Mike McCarthy, I would be surprised if he's coaching next season. And then the Bears situation with Pete Carroll. Okay. I heard he had a great interview. Now, it's rare when you hear, boy, somebody had a terrible interview. You're always hearing, man, he had a great interview. I don't know what that means. Did you pick up the check? Like what happened where you go, man, that's a great interview. Yes, Paul.
Mike Vrabel was on his introductory press conference yesterday with the Patriots and talked about his first ever coaching interview is for Urban Meyer in Ohio State. And he goes, I blew it. I was terrible. I didn't have anything prepared. I didn't know what he was going to ask. He said, I blew my first job interview. He was very candid about it yesterday.
But this is where you have these coaching candidates who go in and then they find out how to interview. And then it helps them down the road. And I think that's where we look at the Rooney Rule, and sometimes you say, well, that candidate's not going to get the job. But you do get the experience of what that's like to go in an interview. And I always go back to Mike Tomlin. When he went in there, and he might have been just we got to bring in this guy, the Rooney Rule, we got to interview a minority. Well, he came in and blew everybody away. And maybe you get that opportunity. But I don't know if Mike McCarthy's going to come in and go, hey, I'm your answer here. I don't believe that. But, maybe I'm jaded because what happened in Dallas. It just felt like we were looking at Mike and you didn't really see the head coach on the sidelines. You just saw a guy who that was his title.